Hello，你好，欢迎回来，Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger. The date is September 16, 2020. In the in the recent years, I hear more and more people saying that Chinese people are anti-religion, and people talk about how religions are getting prosecuted, and wiped out and discriminated against in China. Well, before we go into today's main topic, I just have to say this: a government doesn't define a people. Policies do not define a people. Just like Donald Trump does not define America, Justin Trudeau does not define Canadian. So you can't just look at uh, what the kind of policies that the American government's making, and you say, okay, that's just how American people are. That's all American people are like that. You can't just look at the kind of things that Justin Trudeau do, and you say, that's just what Canadians are like. Uh, no, government policies change all the time. People, however, exist for much, much longer. Policies and government often do not reflect upon the culture, cultural values and histories and beliefs of the general public. And just the same as quite often people's belief, people's religion do not get reflected in the policy or the kind of government that run the country. Now there is a reason why the government of China uh, try to put a cap on religion. And I want to take this chance and clarify that it is not that they don't want religion. It is they want people to keep that at home. China is an extremely large and chaotic country with a massive, very unwieldy population. When you want to control something that big, sometimes it takes extreme measures, extreme rules have to be put in place. Things have to be black and white. Otherwise, things get out of control really, really quickly. I'm not saying that is right, but I'm here to say that that is how it has to be. Now, for those people that stand around and say, yeah, but that is infringing on people's freedom. That is infringing on people's independence. It's infringing on people's right to promote their belief system. You are talking about a communist country, guy. Communist country doesn't have freedom, doesn't believe in independence. Your right in a communist country is be a good, humble communist person. Anything else is bonus. So if you want to go to China, you pretty much should already know that you're giving up the right for freedom. You're giving up the right for independence. You don't like it? Go elsewhere. It's that simple. You come to my house, it's my rule. You don't like my rule, you go elsewhere. Now, of course, it's not always that black and white. There are a lot of people who try to get out of China, but either don't have the money or don't have uh, the connection or don't have the education to get out of there. That is really sad, but that is not the topic for today. All I am saying right now is that China is not anti-religion. All they are saying is it's okay for you to believe in whatever you want, but keep that at home. keep that to yourself. Don't bring it to school, don't bring it to your workplace, because when you go to school, your only purpose is there to learn. When you go to work, your only purpose is to be productive. Anything else, keep it to yourself. That's it. If you play by that rule, then you can be a Christian, you can be Catholic, you can be Buddhist, you can be Taoist, you can be anything you want in China. No problem. In Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China, there are a lot of monasteries and temples that are what you would probably call a tribunal system. You see, most of the time, when you look at other countries, other religions, a Catholic church is a Catholic church, a Christian church is a Christian church, Muslim congregation, the Muslim congregation. Sorry, I don't know what the Muslim a mosque. Yeah, that's it. A mosque is it's a mosque. So everything is pretty clear cut for the most part. But in China, there are a lot of monasteries. You go in there, you will see all three of the main Chinese religion in there. One monastery would be housing a Buddha, a Jade Emperor, and then Confucius. Tribunal. Three. All three interconnected and yet totally separate religion in one place. You go in there, you worship whoever you like. No one's going to judge you. You can even pay worship at all three altars. That's even better. After all, we can all use a little bit extra help here and there. So, hey, why settle for one when you can get all three? Just by that alone shows me that Chinese people is very liberal and very relaxed about religion. They don't even have to keep it separate. They don't seem to feel the need of wiping each other out of existence. They coexist just fine. You want to have Buddhist, you want to have Taoist, that's fine. We will try to all work together, even though our philosophy is completely different, even though our system is completely different. But that's okay. We'll find a way to explain each other into our own system. So Taoist, they found a way to include Buddha or Buddhas into their pantheon, and in return, Buddhists they find a way to coexist with the Taoist pantheon of gods and goddesses. Where does Confucius fit in? Well, see, here is the interesting part. Confucius really doesn't fit in anywhere, but he is there nonetheless, and a lot of people still worship him today. When we talk about religion in Chinese culture, we got to go back 5,000, 6,000 years. For the first 1500 years, for the first 1500 years of recorded Chinese history, Chinese people did not have the habit to believe in deities. They didn't believe there was a heaven. They didn't believe there was a hell. They still worship. But back then, the only kind of religion was people. A lot of people would have statues and depictions of emperors or famous generals or famous scholars or teachers or really great politicians at their home, and they would worship them, not because they believed that they were out there in heaven, that going to give them blessing, but they believed by constantly keeping the memory of these great people in their heart, they could emulate, and assimilate and copy what they did and always remember the great things they did. So that would be kind of like, someone keeping a George Washington statue at home and then pray to him and pay homage to him day and night, or someone keeping a Lincoln statue at home and pay homage to him day and night, or someone keeping a Justin Trudeau statue at home and just pay homage to him day and night. That would be kind of like that for the first 1500 years of Chinese history. And then gradually, the Taoist religion started to flourish in China. A lot of people mistakenly think that Buddhism originated in China, but no, Taoism is the actual, true, to honest to God, Chinese religion, made in China, born in China, and owned in China. Taoist, Taoism is the true religion of the Chinese people in the very beginning. Now, where did this come from? Even today, it's being debated, but most scholars believe that it came from the philosophy of Lear, also known as Lao Tzu, Lao Tzu, uh, in about uh, 2000, about 3,500 years ago, during the Great Unrest, the spring and autumn uh, period of the Civil War in China. There was this great man called Lao Tzu. He was a minister for the one of the kings, um, and he did a lot of great things for his people. He was very smart. He was very kind and very, 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 very merciful. So Lao Tzu, when he was alive, he spent a lot of time writing down his philosophy into a book, maybe what we can call the Chinese first Bible. The first Bible of the Chinese people was from Lao Tzu. And this book was basically called the Philosophy of Tao. The Philosophy of Tao. Uh, if we translate it properly, what this actually meant was this was the book of proper behavior, the book of how to be a decent person, the philosophy of Tao by Lao Tzu. In this book, Lao Tzu talked about how to go about developing your mind, developing your spirit, developing your body to make you into that perfect human being. He believed that if we can master our mind, our spirit, our behavior, our body, it was possible to transcend our human nature and become a god or a goddess. When Lao Tzu passed away, most people refused to believe that he died. So people started telling each other, Lao Tzu didn't die. Lao Tzu finally transcended and became the God, the uh, Godfather, the Father of God. Um, and he's now in heaven, and he's going to look down upon his people and protect his people from the heaven. So in Taoism, the Grand Master, the founder of Taoism was Lao Tzu, not the Jade Emperor. This is why, even though the Jade Emperor is said to be the ruler of heaven, Lao Tzu ranked higher than the Jade Emperor. Lao Tzu is more like the Jade Emperor's father-in-law or something like that. I'm not very up to date on my Taoism because I was never a Taoist, but uh, I'm sure most of you can actually Google this. So we are not going to be try to be overly accurate because that's going to disrupt the flow. of what I'm talking about. So Lao Tzu created Taoism, and then because of that, a lot of people started to leave the cities. A lot of people started to leave their wars, their study, their businesses behind. A lot of people started to go into the mountain and try to uh, do, well, basically do the hippie thing and go back to nature, build their own little cabin in the mountain so they could uh, get away from the worries of everyday life, and they uh, started looking for ways to transcend their humanity and become gods and goddesses. So many people, in fact, became hooked on how to become gods or to become goddesses that even the lords and kings and emperors got sucked into the whole Taoism pursuit. There were many Chinese emperors who wasted their life away in search of godhood. And this was when Confucius came in. Confucius came in and he started promoting his philosophy that there's no such thing as God, there's no such thing as a goddess. We do not uh, try to perfect our mind, body, and spirit to become God. We do that so we can become proper human beings. Confucius believed that there is no such thing as afterlife. There's no such thing as a deity. He believed that this, ourself, human being, that's it. So since this is it, we should make the best of it we can. We should try to become the best person we can because this is all we are going to get. Confucius came in, and at first his teaching was not very well received. However, because eventually Chinese emperors started to see the merit in Confucius's philosophy, they thought, hey, this guy, he got a great idea. Why should we continuously look for that godhood, which, as far as we know, no one's ever proven to have gotten? Why don't we start working on just become great human beings? Why don't we try to get as many of these great human beings into our government so the government would be great and the people would be great? So from that period on, the Chinese imperial brought in the imperial exam. What was the imperial exam? We're going to digress a little bit, but we're not going to talk too much about that because that is a very worthy topic for an entire episode on its own. But suffice to say, every 10 years, the emperor of China would run this big exam to bring in new people to work as Minister of Defense or Minister of Finance or Mayor of a city, blah blah blah. And only people who passed these exams could become a politician. Only people who passed these exams could become can work for the emperor. So the only way to become rich and influential in China for a long time, for thousands of years, was to study and study so you can hopefully pass one of these exams. Anyone could join these exams except for women. Unfortunately, they were very sexist back then. But as long as you were a man, you could sign up and try your luck at the exam. Now, since these exams only happened every 10 years, you can imagine how devastating it was when people failed these exams. Um, so the imperial exam was really big deal, and most of the topics that you would get tested on were philosophies of Confucianism. So now we have Taoism on the one hand, people who try to stay away from the mundane stuff, the people who want to live in the mountains and find ways to become God and goddesses. And on the other hand, we have the Confucianism, who believe that people should study and study and try to be decent and try to be kind to each other. Fast forward to the Tang Dynasty. So that would be about 1,800 years ago, I believe. Uh, the Tang Dynasty was when some monk from India came to China and brought Buddhism with them. Suddenly, there came this much gentler philosophy of Buddhism. Why was Buddhism so well received by Chinese people? Because if you look at Confucianism, if you look at Taoism, both systems share a very similar problem in that both systems promote uh, perfectionism. You have to be perfect to be that goddess. You have to be perfect to be a god. In Confucianism, you have to be perfect to be qualified for the imperial, to work for your lord or your emperor. Both systems were very, very high on pressure and sometimes very little on award or reward. It was an all or nothing system. Okay, in Confucianism, you are either good enough or you are trash. In Taoism, you are either good enough to become a god or goddess, or you are just another mortal, you are trash. Buddhism has no such limitation. Buddha taught us, and yes, there's more than one Buddha. Buddha is not a person. Buddha is a designation. It's a rank. It's a title. So there's many Buddha, and there's a Lord Buddha that I wouldn't even say rule them all, because Lord Buddha doesn't actually rule. Lord Buddha teaches and uh, uh, try to keep things running properly. So he's more like the school principal than the prime minister or a president or a king or emperor. Lord Buddha is more like the head teacher. So there's many Buddha. The Buddhas teach us that a Buddha is not here to punish. A Buddha is not here to judge. Buddhas are only here to guide us, to show us how the universe works. Now, whether we listen to them or not, that's up to us. But they are not going to punish us if we don't follow them. They're not going to reward us if we follow their teaching. They're just here to show us how things work. And how things work is what you do in this lifetime will directly influence what happened to you in the next lifetime and the lifetime after. And we have, during a lifetime, we build up karma. There's good karma and bad karma. And it gets really complicated. Again, you can Google and read up on the entire philosophy of Buddhism if you want, but I'm going to give you a condensed version. Basically, everything you do either give you good karma or bad karma. And at the end of your life, all this is uh, kind of uh, balanced against each other. This is not a Buddha or a God doing that. This is just a way of the universe. Like, you know, you take a bucket of water and put it on the left, you take two buckets of water, put it on the right. The scale will tip over to the right. That's not a God doing that. That's just the law of nature. That's just gravity. So karma works that way. If you have a lot of bad karma, next life you'll have a horrible life because now you're paying off that bad karma. It's not the God of Buddha doing that, it's you doing that to yourself. Now, if you have a lot of good karma by the end of your life, then there's a bigger chance of your next life being really, really good. So it's all up to you. This is a very gentle philosophy. This is like it's not like you have to do this, and do that. You have to be perfect. Otherwise, you're going to not worth anything. No, this is basically the Buddha telling us, okay, this is how things work. You do this, that's bad karma. You do that, that's good karma. I'm not telling you not to do the bad karma thing, but you just have to try to balance things out yourself. If you do a lot of bad things today, you might want to do a lot of good things tomorrow. Otherwise, if something happened to you next week, your next life might be really bad. That's basically the condensed version of a Buddhist philosophy, and it became immensely popular with the civilian in China. It became very popular with Chinese people because Chinese people finally uh, were getting tired of these extreme systems, like in Confucianism and Taoism, where you have to obey and obey and obey, and everything have to be perfect. You have to try to achieve perfection. You are always try to achieve perfection. Buddhism is like a very gentle spring breeze that came through the heart of Chinese people, and it became very popular and quickly became like almost the largest, most popular religion in China. Of course, throughout Chinese history, there were several attempts by various emperors to stamp out one religion or another. Like the Communist Party, when they first took over, they tried to stamp out Confucianism. They destroyed a lot of the Confucius temple, and there were emperors that tried to stamp out Taoism, just like there were emperors that tried to stamp out Buddhism. It really all depends on who was in charge and what did that person believe in. But at the heart of Chinese people, at the heart of this huge and rather unwieldy culture and nation, is a lot of very liberal, very forgiving philosophy. Chinese people, generally speaking, don't care if you believe in Buddha, or if you believe in the Jade Emperor, or if you believe in Confucius. As long as everyone get along and everyone trying to do the right thing, that's good enough for most Chinese people. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Toys Thursday. For now, have a good night and 再见.